Hey class. So, COVID-19 definitely created some very significant issues for the organization that I work for, which is Feed My Starving Children. I work for the plant here in Mesa, Arizona. So, actually, the main issue that it created was our primary workforce are volunteers. And we have a core staff of a total of about 20 people. But before COVID, we were facilitating about 5,000 volunteers a week to come through our packing um, sessions to pack food. So we could no longer do that, and so we shut down in March to figure out how we can bring volunteers back in. Bottom line is we put together a plan, but we to be reopened, but it had a very limited capacity, being able to still do the CDC guidelines and local authority approvals for our plan to be able to open up to the public. So what we did is we created a plan to be able to do the social distancing part. We could have 240 volunteers per session before, and we reduced that to start off with to 25, about 10% capacity of volunteers. And we created lots of checklists, lots of sanitizing, again, checklists for staff to do after every session. We were sanitizing everything at pretty much every touch point. Everything from where the volunteers sat to the bathrooms to the sinks they washed their hands at to the packing tables. All the dishes that they use were washed after every session. So very time consuming, but that was really the only way that we could be open and be able to keep volunteers and staff safe. A lot of the pinpointing expectations that we established were very detailed. So when it comes to volunteer expectations, we did a lot of communicating with volunteers initially when we gave them the opportunity to come back. And really communicating the changes. A lot of our volunteers had been with us for a long time, and in their mind, things were going to happen the same. But the reality is they weren't, and so we had to do a lot of communicating with them through phone calls and emails to communicate, and then in addition to that, creating expectations, very clear expectations with staff. And we did that through creating new job descriptions, and details of responsibilities during the packing sessions, checklists, very detailed. So, trying to create a template and a standard so all the employees did the same thing through every session, and trying to create some consistency for safety and sanitizing. So that was one of the ways that we were able to pinpoint is to do that, be very detailed in laying out the expectations and what people did, and what they were allowed to do, because we're 4 sessions a day, 5 days a week. So and so really just a lot of communication. We did have volunteers that would come in. It was interesting. We had volunteers that would come in, and they expressed a lot of appreciation for our protocols that we put in place. They said that we were, out of all the places that they've gone back to volunteer, that by far we had the most protocols in place for safety for volunteers and staff, and they were greatly appreciative of that. And then we also had volunteers that came in that thought we were way overboard in what we did and what we put in place. So it's kind of interesting, but the bottom line is we did what we did and put the controls in place because we have a responsibility to keep people safe, both volunteers and staff, and the food too, so that we are packing to send around the world. So our goal was to still pack food, but do it in a way that was safe. And one of those things is masks. Also, people have to wear masks in the building all the time, and we had volunteers that kind of pitched a fit about it. So, but the bottom line is, we told them that it wasn't an option. That if they wanted to come in and pack with us, they had to wear a mask, and if they didn't want to wear a mask, then unfortunately they couldn't pack with us. So, anyway, those are some of the things that we did, and creating some consistency and communicating that consistency, and depending upon the leadership to continue to enforce the consistency with the staff and the volunteers as a whole. So we are open and continue to be open now at a smaller capacity, but we're just thankful that we are open to pack food. So hopefully it's good information there, and I look forward to some future videos.